Appreciate Colin Thompson hopping aboard with us. He's a buddy of John's. John does shows with him down the shore over the years. Just a good dude, smart dude, generates good opinions here on the air with us, and still fighting the good fight to try and get into the NFL, and spent this year on the Panthers practice squad. So we truly appreciate him jumping in. Did a great job for us. As will Jeff Mosher, who's going to join us now. Less than 15 minutes. He of InsideTheBirds.com podcast, everything else. Always good to talk to Moshe. Been a couple of weeks since we talked to him. All right, here's what I want to talk about till Moshe joins us, Johnny Mac. The defensive backfield position for the Eagles. Most people believe that James Bradbury is going to get a deal that is going to be above and beyond what the Eagles can afford to pay him. It'll be a very good year that we remember that he spent here in Philadelphia, making a Pro Bowl, making All-Pro, helping the Eagles get to a Super Bowl, but poof, he's going to be gone. And the Eagles are going to have to replace him, and I would suggest that they do not have his replacement on the roster right now, that he will be replaced by someone who
they don't have Kerry Benson or Mac McCain any longer.
Yeah, they just got cut short there. And sorry, we're Mac fans, Zach Mac or Zach Mac, whatever you want to call him. We don't think he's quite up to the task. We'll see if that's the direction the Eagles go. They'll either be bringing in another veteran, less expensive player, or more likely drafting a cornerback with a high pick, like maybe number 10 in the draft. And I did specifically watch all the cornerback workouts at the combine, and we always try and keep the combine in its proper perspective. It's not the be-all, end-all, but it's part of the evaluative process. Anybody jump out at you as far as the corners with their workouts? Did the Eagles at least get to a lean position in the cornerbacks, or at least in your eyes, did you, as far as if the Eagles take the first cornerback off the board, who that should be?
Well, I think the best thing from the Eagles' perspective was the quarterbacks, not the cornerbacks, because Anthony Richardson is the guy who's going to be, polarizing in draft world, but he's not polarizing in the NFL world. He's going to be a top 10 pick. He's just going to be a top 10 pick. And we know Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are going to be top 10 picks. So then you have Will Levis. Is he going to be a top 10 pick? Probably, depending on, where some of these veteran guys do. So all of a sudden, if you have 4 quarterbacks in the top 9 picks of the draft, well, that gives the Eagles a lot of sort of wiggle room when it comes to the top corners. I don't think the top edge rushers are going to get to him. That'd be the other position they would consider. So it comes down to corners, and there's an outside chance you might have an opportunity at all of them. And the first corner could go off the board at 10. I don't think that's going to be the case. Detroit may take a corner. Detroit is an interesting team because Jared Goff played well, but do you believe in Jared Goff long term? So are they even in the quarterback competition? Who knows? I don't think they will be, but I think they might be in the cornerback competition. I look at Christian Gonzalez and Witherspoon as the 2 top corners. And ultimately, I know a lot of people locally are going to go Joey Porter from Penn State. If I'm the Eagles, I hope one of those 2 are there, and that's who I take. The only thing that could be a curveball is, as I said, if one of the edge rushers falls, it's what the Eagles are. Howie will tell you all the time. Offensive, defensive line. And they believe in that, and they should believe in that. But a couple of years ago, I think people don't realize, and everybody's happy with Devontae Smith, and they should be happy with Devontae Smith. Devontae was the last player in sort of the mix that they wanted at 12. They started at 12 and traded up. And who they really wanted was J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain. and they both went back to back, and all of a sudden the Eagles are like, oh, there's only one player left, and they made the move up to get DeVonta Smith. They wanted a corner that year, and they weren't able to get him. So, it's time. It's time with cornerback.
I agree. It's unfortunate because I think if they had a fair shot at a Bradbury, if I didn't think he was going to get a above market value type deal, I would say run these two guys back again for at least a year, if not two, Slay and Bradbury. But chances are they're moving on, and they're going to have to replace maybe not one, but two safeties. That if Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's going to get a surprisingly well above offer, and there is some rumors that there are teams out there that not only like him but love him, which is going to make his re-signing difficult, and also that there's interest in Marcus Epps out there. We believe that Blankenship can step in and take one of the safety spots. If the Eagles don't use the franchise tag on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, you and I discussed this the week before we left, and you said you think it's highly unlikely. I give it a little bit more chance. I think it's at least a possibility, and they got to make that call by tomorrow. It's the end of the offer, the franchise tag period in the NFL. They're going to be able to replace both of them if they lose both safeties, John?
Well, I don't think they will. It's one of those things. They want CJ back, but if they don't get CJ back, I think they'll sign Marcus back. So it's one of those things where I think they're going to lose one, but I don't think they're going to lose both. And certainly they don't want to lose both. And I feel the same way at offensive line, but more tied to Jason Kelsey's retirement or non-retirement. If he retires, I think they're going to get Isaac back. If he doesn't, I think Isaac is going to leave. So, and linebacker as well with TJ Edwards and Kaiser White. They want TJ back. If they're not able to get TJ back, I think they'll get Kaiser back. And I think it's sort of that, all right, we can keep one, but we can't keep both. At each of those particular positions, something catastrophic happens. And I think the Eagles are going to be really disciplined with CJ Gardner-Johnson. And I go back to last year. One, they're a disciplined team to begin with. They just are. And I go back to last year. They wanted Marcus Williams. They wanted Marcus Williams badly, who, and Eagles fans don't want to hear this, Marcus Williams is a better safety than CJ Gardner-Johnson. CJ had a great season, splashy season, a lot of interceptions, still very young at that particular position, whereas Marcus is more finely polished, I'll say. He's a better player. And they really, really wanted him. And they had a number set. And Baltimore went above that number. And they said, all right, Godspeed, do what you want. He had a good season in Baltimore. And he's a good player. He's a really good player. So is CJ. But that doesn't mean they're going to make him the highest paid safety in the NFL. He doesn't deserve to be that. And if somebody wants to come in and blow him out of the water, I think the Eagles are going to be disciplined.
And speaking of how you look at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I saw this in our buddy Reuben Frank's observation column, and it goes back to Pro Football Focus, which John and I both like, both use. We have guys from Pro Football Focus on. It's one of those things that at times I check their ratings and their evaluation system and I go, damn, I'm glad someone else sees it the same way I do. And then I'll check some things and go, what the hell are they looking at? I don't see it like that at all. So you put whatever emphasis you want on Pro Football Focus and the job that they do. Chauncey Gardner ranked out of the 123 safeties that were ranked this year in the NFL, number 58.
Yeah.
He's just about in the top half of all safeties. I watched every single snap that the Eagles played this year, and I thought he was pretty damn good and should be much higher ranked than that. If that holds the water that we think it does across the league, or maybe we're just because we got to see every play that Chauncey Gardner made last year, is maybe the best hope for him to come back to the Eagles that the rest of the league doesn't think as highly of him as we do here in Philadelphia?
Well, some, that as I said, I don't think they want to make him the highest paid safety in football, and that's what he's going to look for. And my comparison for CJ is Trayvon Diggs in Dallas, different positions, but what I mean by that is Trayvon makes plays. He just makes plays, and that's very important. I always use the baseball analogy. That's like a home run hitter, and home run hitters are more important than singles hitters. They just are. And NFL teams value that playmaking ability. Gardner-Johnson has tremendous, but he's not consistent. That's kind of what I'm talking about with Marcus Williams. Is a more consistent player. Is he as splashy? No. CJ led the league in interceptions. He missed 5 stinking games. I mean, he made plays, and that's why I bring up the Diggs comparison. Same thing with Diggs. He makes plays. He also gives up plays. And that's sort of where you are with CJ Gardner-Johnson. If it's $12 million a year, sign him. If it's $15 million a year, be disciplined. Go in a different route. Re-sign Marcus Epps. Hopefully Reed Blankenship continues to develop. But they want CJ Gardner-Johnson back. But you got to be disciplined about it. I agree, and I think the Eagles will be.
And the story you told, and I remember discussing it during free agency, leading up to free agency, that you had said your sources told you the Eagles really liked Marcus Williams, and they were making a big effort to get him. He ended up signing top of the market deal with the Ravens last year, and they moved. There was a point that they moved off him and said, "We like you, but we just think this is too much to pay for that position." And we'll see if the CJ Gardner contract comes down that same road for the Eagles. But the problem is, and you pointed out the 3 different positions where the Eagles have a couple of questions. Well, the Kelsey thing it's a question for him. It's not a question for the Eagles and how they evaluate it, whether Jason decides to play. But interior offensive line, linebacker, safety, they got 2 potential holes, and they'll get one done, and the other one they're probably going to have to separate. I actually feel the most worried about the safety position, because if the worst case scenario is both guys get out of town because they get offers that the Eagles might not be ready or willing to match, I'm more worried about safety than I am linebacker or the offensive line. I think they're going to get...
You talk about Pro Football Focus, by the way. You don't want to see Marcus's grade.
Oh, his grades were bad too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. His
really?
grades were really bad. I'm looking it up. Let's see. He was near the bottom. So I do think, I don't think Marcus is going to break the bank. It's another one of those stories where obviously agent is going to talk about. Marcus was 71, the 71st graded safety.
Really? Wasn't that far behind CJ. He was only 13 back, 58 to 71. That's not good for either of them, and I disagree with both of those grades, but the Gardner-Johnson one surprised me more than the Epps one.
CJ was 46. I don't know where. I'm still not great, but CJ was bad, which is again counterintuitive for people because you talked about with Colin in the Super Bowl, the big hit. He's not very good in run defense. Again, big hit doesn't mean you're good in run defense. It means you get a big hit every now and again. And Marcus's issues were in coverage. Chauncey was a great coverage safety, as you would expect. He's a cornerback playing safety. And Marcus was really good in run defense, but really poor in coverage. So that's how PFF saw it. But yeah, I don't think Marcus Epps is going to get a ton of money. I think someone's going to say, hey, this is a starting level safety, and we're going to try to sign him. But what I'm trying to say is if CJ gets top of the market money and the Eagles say it's too much, I think they'll be able to get Marcus back.
We shall see. The defensive backfield for the Eagles is one that's going to be in transition. And this is that time of year where those questions start to get answered. We are only 1 week away, less than a week now. It's next Sunday. The best oxymoron in all of sports, legalized tampering. Starts on Sunday, which leads to free agency, which is next Wednesday. Yeah, your Birds 365 guys will be on it each and every single day here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. We're going to get a helping hand next. Jeff Mosher from InsideTheBirds.com, Inside the Birds podcast, will hop aboard with us. As John mentioned earlier, he's pretty tied in on these coaching moves and what's happening around the league and the like. We got a bunch of things to run by Jeff Mosher. He's going to jump aboard next here on Birds 365.